All right. Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to you this morning. So great to have you here for the Future of Technology webinar series by Adrian Kenya. So for today's panel, we're going to be discussing on how businesses can be able to leverage the fourth industrial revolution. And my name is Charity Murigi, the Corporate Communications Manager at Adrian, and I will be your moderator for today, moderating today's conversation. So technologies around us have indeed changed how we live, how we work, and how we do business. And a shining example is actually just right now, where we are able to hold a virtual event through this digital platform as organized by Adrian Kenya, who is our host for today. And just a brief introduction to Adrian Kenya for those of you who might not be aware. Our host today is an indigenous company right here from Kenya, now a leading provider of technology and EPC solutions in East Africa. EPC there standing for engineering, procurement, and construction. And we're proud to mention that in the last 7 years, the company has become one of the leading business partners in telecommunication integration. They've managed to build over 800 cell sites, connected over 3,000 clients to fixed data, and are currently supporting over 56,000 customers on home fiber, enabling them to work, to have their children go to school. There's so much online learning going on today. And they have also extended this expertise to the ICT and to the power sectors. And one of the important things that we've been able to see as a business, we've come to appreciate that innovation is the lifeline of any business. And in today's age, innovation is anchored by technology, and this is why we are having our conversation today. And so for today's conversation, I'm going to be engaging Nekesa Were, who is the Director of Strategy for AfriLabs. She's really gotten her hands dirty in the last couple of years, working at the heart of the Kenyan ecosystem. And she'll be just letting us know what are some of the best strategies, what are some of the things that she has seen from her experience. She's worked with numerous startups through iHub when she was at iHub. Just what is her experience for businesses being able to leverage the fourth industrial revolution? With the world changing today at such an unprecedented pace, companies must be able to respond quickly. Having worked with startups, having worked with companies at the grassroots level just to digitize their systems, bring them up, there's definitely a lot that we can be able to discuss today. And even as we go into our discussion, you can be able to participate by sharing your views, your comments, and your ideas on social media using the hashtag AdrianTechWebinar. So that is AdrianTechWebinar. And this is a topic that's definitely top of our mind. So I'm sure you're also going to be having some questions. And we're definitely going to be taking some of your questions. If you see there's a Q&A session, you can be able to send in your questions using the Q&A section, and just put in your questions just right now, even as we continue with the conversation. So, Nekesa, good morning. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. How are you, Charity?
Fine, thank you. Probably you can, I know I've just introduced you a bit, but you can probably just introduce yourself again. I probably haven't done that justice. Get to introduce yourself again. Just tell us who you are, what you do, and the wealth of experience that you bring to us. I know it, so yeah.
Well, yeah, my name is Nekesa Were. I am the Director of Strategy at AfriLabs. AfriLabs is a Pan-African network of innovation centers across the African continent, obviously. We currently have a membership of 225 members spread across 47 African countries. And so we've done a pretty good job of trying to get the entire continent covered. At AfriLabs, we support the innovation centers by giving them access to very reliable data that enables them to make critical decisions on how to support entrepreneurs within their communities. We give them access to a great network of other enablers, and so everywhere from government organizations to private organizations, corporates, and so on, that these hubs can plug into either with your products or with the products of the entrepreneurs that they support. We offer, together with our partners, funding, and so we have a great program called Catalyst that's just about to launch, that's going to enable us be able to fund startups using our hubs as conduits for that funding and for ensuring that deliverables are met both by the funders and the startups. And also a lot of capacity building. And so we have a great capacity building program that is really focused on localized content. And so we are very cognizant that our African hub may work or may be within conditions that are different from hubs or entrepreneurs in other parts of the world. And so the kind of content and training and mentors that we expose them to are very localized for the African context. A lot of that content is delivered by hub managers or by our African partners and so on, just to ensure that it really speaks to the African hub and to the African entrepreneur. So that's what Afilabs does. Obviously, I've been in the tech and innovation space for a little over 10 years now, I think. Prior to joining Afilabs, I was with the iHub, which is an innovation center that a lot of people may know, based in Nairobi. I worked in different capacities over the course of 8 years, most recently as managing director, my last 2 years with the organization. So it's been an exciting 10 years of being involved in startups, watching them grow from idea stage all the way to launch into the market and sometimes into exits. Lots of tears, lots of proud moments, and definitely lots of lessons learned. So very happy to be having this conversation with you today, Charity.
Thank you so much. And just from what you've mentioned about working with startups at iHub, startups at Afilabs, there's probably a business here or someone who's joined and feels that, you know, the 4IR technologies, when we are talking about machine learning, when we are talking about blockchain, when we are talking about 3D printing, when we are talking about AI or VR, you know, sometimes some of these technologies seem, you know, like they're just far-fetched. They are for the Facebooks and Googles and Microsofts and Intels of the world. And it doesn't feel like it's quite close home for them. You know, it just feels like some far-fetched idea. So probably just to start us off, why is it so important for us to be talking about these 4IR technologies today? What does this really mean for businesses around us, for startups, for an entrepreneur who is here with us? What do these technologies really mean for them? Why is it important for us to be discussing this today?
I think the thing that entrepreneurs need to be the most aware of is that they are using these technologies already. And even if you're not using it, someone is using it on you to determine how best to interact with you, what kind of conversation to have with you, where to meet you, how to sell you stuff. Yeah, and so even if you don't notice that you're using technology, you are using technology. So for example, when you use your smartphone, the reason you're able to swipe, the reason you're able to make a call, to get your phone to do something just by using voice, that's because of 4IR technology. You know, the reason, you know, when we talk about when people have that moment, they say the government is watching me because I searched for something on my phone and now Facebook, I have all these pop-up notifications. That's really 4IR technology learning you and learning what kind of messages to send you. And so it's happening around us already. And it really is just a time for you to embrace it, to learn it, you know, learn what works and what doesn't work, what you should be aware of, what you should have concern for, you know, and what is really just technology doing what technology does. Yeah, and so for entrepreneurs on this call, my call to them would be, this is not something that's happening at tech level, at corporate level. It's not something that's happening at government level. It's happening across the globe, and everyone needs to get involved. And if you don't get involved, then really what happens is you miss the ship. The rest of us move on to making more money and having more clients, and you stay here in an isolated place where technology doesn't work for you, when really it's your tool that you should begin to leverage.
All right, great. And what we are really, and I actually like what you've mentioned, what you've said, that it's actually around us here today. It's not far-fetched. Just the simple things, for example, like on Facebook, being able to swipe on your phone. Sometimes you go to Google and you search something, and then you get onto Facebook, and then immediately an ad pops up, or you see the exact product that you are searching for on Google, and you're wondering, oh my goodness, what magic is this? What is happening? Is someone
And you
stalking
switch
me?
off your camera. And you switch off your camera because you're like, okay, someone's watching me. They saw what I typed. No.
And someone may just be feeling, oh my goodness, someone is watching me. But what we are saying is
Yeah.
that's actually some of the technologies, machine learning, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, that are used by some of these companies and softwares to enable their businesses. And what we are saying today is that you also can be able to use some of these things to enable your business. But then also, I think a keyword that is usually mentioned when we are talking about the technologies or the future of technology is the word disruption. Disruption is just mentioned everywhere. The business rule book has really just been rewritten by some of these technologies. And in the last couple of years, we've seen companies come up, the likes of Uber, which is considered as disruptor of the transportation sector. People never thought that, like a taxi could be affordable that easily. I remember growing up, the only time that you took a taxi was when you're going to at the airport. Taking a taxi just like to move from one place to another was not so commonplace. And right now it's just very common to either use Uber or Bolt or Lyft or whatever it is. And then also looking at things like Airbnb, which are considered to have, again, disrupted the hospitality sector. And these are some of the businesses that have emerged and have thrived. But this has not been the case for everyone. This has not been the case for all businesses. For some, it has actually been quite a painful time. And I think a story that is told and overtold might be the one of Kodak. I think even the meaning of Kodak moment has now changed. When people are talking about a business that was not able to see the times and they suffered for it. I think Nokia at a time was also mentioned for that, having suffered through the waves of the changing technologies. And I think today, even as we ask ourselves about how can our businesses leverage the fourth industrial technologies, probably what would you say are some of the differentiating factors between these companies that are able to see technologies, pick them up and thrive in the season, and some of these that perhaps they actually do see the technology, but they're not able to pick it up, or something is different, and it ends up being a painful time for them. What would you say is the differentiating factor between these two groups of companies, really?
Well, first of all, let me just backtrack a bit. And yes, so you mentioned disruption. And what happens sometimes with the innovation space with entrepreneurs is you have all this pressure on yourself. You say, okay, if I'm going to leverage innovation, if I'm going to leverage tech, it must be this new incredible solution that no one has heard of, because all you're seeing is these people who exited and got millions of dollars and so on. And so you're saying that this is the kind of innovation that is expected of me. But what people need to constantly, what entrepreneurs need to constantly remind themselves of is that innovation so yes, it's revolutionary, but then after that it tends to just be evolutionary, right? And so using your example of Uber, for example, Uber, you could make the argument that it was evolutionary, it wasn't revolutionary, because we already had GPS, we're already using maps and so on. And so all that Uber did was come and say, you know what, let's use cars and let's use this technology of mapping and GPS and allow people to be able to use taxis, using cars, the Ubers. And that's what Uber was. Or another example is the smartphone. And so we had the feature phones. And so the smartphone was revolutionary. When we had, was it an iPhone 1? I don't know what the first iPhone was called. It was so long ago. But so that was revolutionary, that now we had the touch screens and so on, these voice commands, etc., etc. But where are we now? We're at the iPhone, is it 10? I don't know. All these that have happened in between the first iPhone and now have been evolutionary. And so they annually or however often are going to come online and talk about this is the new product. It's not an entirely new product. We just have evolved the way that the product works, right? So even for entrepreneurs, don't sit and say that, oh my, I have this idea, but this has been done already. This other thing has been done already. So what can I do that causes this major shift in the market? You may not necessarily need to build something anew. You just need to leverage what exists already and then figure out how to create a new component of it that works for you. Yeah. So then to your question, what kind of organizations would more likely succeed in this kind of environment? I think for me has been those that are easy, that make it, that have within them ingrained a culture that makes it easy for them to adopt and learn. One of the things that I've learned being in the innovation space is that you won't know everything, and it's okay to not know everything. And so you must be able to surround yourself with people that know what you don't know, right? You must be comfortable in the fact that you don't know everything, but surround yourself with organizations, with team members, and you hire, look for someone who knows stuff that you don't know. That's why you're hiring them, to complement what you're doing. Yeah, and once you have a kind of culture, then you find that for you it's easy to adopt. If someone that you trust is coming and telling you, okay, this is the direction that I feel we should go, I feel our organization needs to think about an e-commerce platform, then you immediately adopt to that and figure out, okay, right, let's move, let's begin thinking about this e-commerce platform, what do we need, how do our products look, and so on. And so it's easy adoption, and also understanding that ideas come from anywhere. So perhaps you are a corporate listening, and you are wondering, or you're thinking to yourself, surely, are we going to go to a startup, us as this big corporate? Are we going to go to that guy sitting at NILAB or wherever and tell him to help us build a solution? Yes. Sometimes it's great ideas that are going to leapfrog, or rather that are going to enable your company take great advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. Sometimes that's an innovator sitting at a hub. Sometimes it's a startup. And so it's all about understanding what strengths other people bring into your organization that you should begin to leverage. So openness for me is another characteristic of organizations that should likely take great advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. And then finally, just understanding that bad tech is worse than no tech. And so even as you begin to incorporate tech, as you begin to incorporate 4IR into your solutions, understand that quality matters, understand that the user experience matters. So don't settle for less than what would work for you. So one thing you can do as someone that owns a product or someone that owns a business is incorporate tech that does not work for your consumers. Then you'd just be losing them immediately. So for me, those are the things to look out for and the things to work on.
All right. Thank you so much. I really like that about talking about openness, talking about what works for your consumer, just being very keen on that. And even as we speak about disruption, innovation, some of these keywords that are associated with the fourth industrial revolution, I'm glad to see that Professor Bitange Ndemo has been able to join us. Thank you very much, sir, and welcome to the conversation. And Bitange is the professor of entrepreneurship at the University of Nairobi's Business School, researching on the link between ICT, small medium enterprises, and how ICT can influence economic development in Africa. So when we are talking about how businesses can be able to leverage on the fourth industrial revolution, be able to leverage on some of these new technologies, I think you've written quite a number of articles on that topic. You've also been credited for the transformation of the ICT sector, given your role in government as a minister from 2005 to 2013. And so Bitange, I'll just ask you a question again that I got to ask Nekesa. With your experiences in government, with your experience with all the research that you've done, specifically even in entrepreneurship, why is it important for us? Why is it important for businesses to be considering the 4IR technology? Someone might be saying machine learning is too far off for me. As an entrepreneur, as an SME, what are the benefits of considering the 4IR technologies?
Well, thank you again for inviting me to be here with you today. I would step back a little bit and explain what we've gone through by failure to be with the rest of the world. When we had the first industrial revolution, which brought mechanization, especially in farming, in order to enhance productivity in farm produce, we did not adopt it because we were very comfortable with our methods of farming. If you can see, we are coming in late, we are having problems with food security, we need to produce more food, and we are just beginning haphazardly to adopt mechanization. And the second industrial revolution also, which brought a lot more productivity, especially in the production lines, in order for us to afford products. Because previously, if it is a car, it used to be one at a time and it was very expensive. Then mass production improved productivity and lowered the pricing for people to afford. You have seen in the third industrial revolution what has happened and the changes, the examples that which we can talk about. The one that I use most is that it used to take 22 days to get cash in your bank for a check drawn in Kiambu. And the people used to actually to give you a check before they could even deposit the money because they knew it will take long. Even the fastest means, which were poster, which was 4 days, still there was a lot of inefficiencies which came in the form of you receiving your money 5 days after they were sent. If you are discharging a patient, say in Mombasa, and you send money, the patient would stay there for 5 days and the hospital will bill you. That is the cost of inefficiency. Today, you can actually pay the bill within a minute and the patient leaves, you save the 5 days cost. So any industrial revolution brings a lot more productivity. It makes our lives much easier and we take advantage of it. The problem is that what we call resistance to change. Our resistance to change into the first industrial revolution affected for a very long time. If we resist in the fourth industrial revolution, there are many more things or many more problems that we would get into. Fortunately, several companies have embraced the fourth industrial revolution. I usually avoid to talk about technologies like machine learning. I even avoid to talk about artificial intelligence, which are the technologies that will drive the fourth industrial revolution. I would rather talk about streamlining supply chains, what you see Twiga Foods is doing. What they have done is that previously we used to waste up to 50% of our harvest in terms of food. And you have seen these small companies, startups coming and streamlining that supply chain, knowing where the customer is, and also making sure that you produce to sell. Previously, we did it random, we didn't know what to do, so we lost food in the process. You are seeing what has happened with credit. Most of us grew up knowing that you must have an asset in order to get loans from the banks. That has been flipped upside down by artificial intelligence for studying your behavior patterns, and you can get credit out of credit scoring, which is developed out of use of artificial intelligence. So what we should be concerned is the final product. The mechanism is what we now say government must invest in terms of capacity development. And one more point is that I hear a lot of nonsense people say that artificial intelligence is going to displace people out of work. If you look in 1800 or 1900, just when in Britain the industrial production was improving with mechanization, they opposed it and said most people are going to lose employment. But what has happened, even as I speak to you, the studies that we are doing, a company in Arusha that has been making the same in terms of textile, they invested in robotics in order to produce more. And they brought people and put robotics. And of course, people were removed from the line where they used to do repetitive things. But those people were not fired. They were moved into stitching, which was a higher skill level, and they were trained that now they earn more money than they used to earn. The same thing happened when we brought computers into offices. The former President Moi banned computers in offices because he said that they are going to displace secretaries. Today, you go to public offices, you find 3-4 secretaries with computers. So let us embrace this emergence of the new fourth industrial revolution. We understand those technologies. We train our young people to work on the back end in terms of machine learning. Then we become competitive. One last point is that 4IR is meant for Africa. And this is why it is meant for Africa. Africa has more than 2,000 languages. We don't understand one another other than using a foreign language like French or English. We have now seen by labeling our languages that we can actually speak in our languages in the way we understand it, with the confidence that comes with speaking your language, and the other party understands it. Who would say that that is wrong in terms of now beginning to look at ourselves and saying we can communicate than previously we did? So there are many more benefits. I could talk and talk, and I liked what Nekesa said, that you don't have to know everything in order to leverage these technologies. You just have to ask the right questions, like asking, when is the rains coming so that I can plant? Then there's some big data person will tell you the rains would come on February 4th, because now you can predict. You can also ask questions that are we going to have a disaster like hurricanes? You see on TV how they predict where the hurricane is going to go through, and you get that. Then you get the answer. So you are using a very advanced technology without necessarily you having to understand it. We don't understand behind the mobile handset, but we are now using it, and I pray that we use it more than we are using today. So let me stop there to allow others to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for those insights regarding what are some of the benefits that we really can get from embracing the fourth industrial revolution. And some of the things that I was hearing is, as these technologies come, let us learn them, let us embrace them. There's also a part to do with upskilling. When you talked about moving employees from one sector to another, probably when a new technology comes in. So reskilling, upskilling, those are some of the things that I think I got to pick from that. And which takes me to actually my next question, and I'll start by addressing it to Nekesa, who has been at the forefront of helping startups with business support services, grassroots organizations to develop their strategies and operations. We've already heard about the benefits of these technologies, why we should be considering them. And I think right now we are ready to talk about what are the next steps? What are the key considerations for a business that would probably now want to embark on this journey for digital transformation? What would you say that, okay, as a business, these are the things that you should consider? Nekesa?
Thanks, Charity. Well, first, I want to suggest that every business should consider viewing itself as a tech company. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is what I mean. Let me give some examples. A lot of us eat pizza, so maybe you've heard of Domino's Pizza. Now they made a huge turn in how they worked, and this was even seen in their revenue when they began to see themselves as an e-commerce company that was selling pizza. And so to a large extent, they began to operate as an Amazon rather than as a pizza brand. And so what that meant for them is that they were working on new technologies. And so they, for example, are looking at voice automation, I guess, for the orders and so on. They're looking at autonomous delivery. They're looking at GPS, driver tracking, and all these other things that we talk about when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution or innovation generally. And so for them, that's what they focus on, so that they're able to build a product that enables them to make and deliver their pizzas. Or think about DHL, which is actually it's more than the van that you see when your product is being delivered, or it's more than the office where you deliver your package, so it can be sent to whomever it's being sent to. So is it a logistics company or a tech company? Because when you think about it, they're thinking about their tracking for the vehicles, they think about the tracking for the parcels. So think about all that technology that actually enables DHL to deliver your products or your services. Or close at home, think about Nairobi Hospital or any other hospital that you've been to locally. You know that you get registered, you go to triage, you go to the emergency room, you're assessed by a doctor, and then you go to your prescription. You go get your prescription. Think about the back end of that. I want to believe that Nairobi Hospital, for example, has as many techies as it has doctors. It's not. Yeah, because all you do is you sit at one place to another, and it's all connected. They're all talking to each other. When you go to the lab, you don't sit there and wait for your results. You go to the lab, leave your sample, and then your doctor calls you because he's received your results. So think about all that technology. So is Nairobi Hospital a hospital? Is it a tech company offering hospital services, right? And so constantly, we're living in a very connected world, where people want things and they want them at the rate that they want them. And this is forcing a lot of organizations to begin to think of themselves as tech organizations that then deliver a service or deliver a product. And companies right now are actually innovating and hiring. They're either innovating internally, many of them are hiring startups, many of them are working out of hubs just to speed up that innovation process so that they can begin to meet the needs of these evolving clients. Yeah, so that's one thing. Think about how important tech is to your organization, and perhaps even begin thinking about your organization as a tech organization that's leveraging that tech to then deliver goods and services. So the second thing I'd say is that it feels, I believe it's not optional now. We now are beginning to see we need to integrate tech into all our processes. As a marketer, you need to integrate tech. As an HR professional, you need to integrate tech. Yeah. So as a marketer, you're using tools to expose products to your clients. As an HR official, there is software potentially that you want to use to ensure that the HR processes within your organization are seamless and that they work for your teams. When you think about how you communicate across your organization, some are using WhatsApp, some have moved to Slack and Notion and all these other things that people use to communicate and manage the processes internally. And so to compete, if you're going to compete, especially at the national, Pan-African, global scale, it's not optional anymore. If you're going to refine your solutions, if you're going to make it seamless, just like Professor was saying, what's key now is making it so it's a seamless process. It's a process that works without too much pressure, on the end user. Then you want to begin incorporating tech, and that's what entrepreneurs on this call should begin to think about. And like I said before, it really needs to be good tech, because bad tech is worse than no tech at all. You need to put your user at the center and figure out how do they want to interact with you and your product. The third thing that I want to say is we're now getting to where we all need basic to advanced skills to begin to make our products work better. And so, like right now, for example, I think it's next to impossible to be running a business if you can't use a word processor, right? You use some form of word processor. And in the future, it may be that we need some basic coding skills. And so the kind of skills that we need to have are, are constantly changing as well. And that's something that we need to pay attention to. If you think about an organization, if you think about a security firm, they are now beginning to need to teach their security guards, not just how to get people to fill in that book that you all don't like filling, but now you need, as a security guard, it's getting to where you need to be able to use technology because it's all getting automated, it's all going online. How do you make sure the person who's coming is someone that's been expected? There's now tools for that. There's face recognition technology that's now being incorporated into the security of buildings, even in Nairobi. And so even as a security guard, you now need to be able to use tech. And so that's another thing that you need to be cognizant of as a business, that your entire team, regardless of what they do, need to be able to leverage tech in some capacity. Even our mama bloggers are using their ETRs. People have now moved their catalogs onto WhatsApp. So everyone is really using tech, and that's where you find your clients. Final thing I want to say is that much as we're talking about, we need to think about what skills we have. We're not saying that you learn for employment. We're saying that you learn for survival. And so you're learning because it's how you're going to interact with family and friends, for example. Right now, if you don't have a phone, if you can't use your phone, you probably aren't able to interact with family and friends. You're learning because it's how you get your goods, it's how you get the goods and services that you need. So even as a client, as a customer, you need to begin to leverage tech because that's where you find the goods and services that you want. As the owner of a product, that's how you begin to deliver the goods and services because of tech. And so it's really about survival of your business. The other reason to learn is because it's probably how you're going to access your money. Right? I haven't walked into a bank for close to 3 years now because I'm able to access my money online. It may get to a point where no one can access a bank. Maybe we're getting to where banks totally close off their physical locations, or maybe they have just one that's nowhere near where you're located. So even again, as far as accessing things that you own, like your money, it may be that you need to have some form of skill that allows you to survive, that allows you to be able to understand how to access that. And then finally, we're learning because it's how you scale your business, right? And a great example right now is this free trade area that's going to launch. I think it's in January. And it's basically connecting markets across the African continent. And there's a huge e-commerce component of it, for example. And it's going to provide a great opportunity for small businesses, especially, to be able to sell their wares across the African continent. Now, if even as an African continent, if even as the African Union, we're saying, right, we're opening up markets, we're developing policies and processes where borders come down, we're making easier the way that you travel from South Africa to Egypt in a way that's affordable. We're making it so you perhaps have a Pan-African passport. Hopefully that's where we get. This means that even the way that the continent is structuring, it's preparing itself to be an ideal environment for you to scale your business. But on your part, to survive as a business, you need to be able to leverage the opportunities that are beginning to present yourself. So for me, learning the fourth industrial revolution and what it presents, it's not just about because you want to be employable. It's really about in all aspects of your life, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a consumer, it's going to be a thing that you need to know and to understand in order to survive. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nekesa. I really do like that statement that understanding technology is actually key to survival. It's not just about, okay, let me see what we can do about this. It's actually a key to survival. And Bitange, now just for your comment on just the same question, for the businesses or for the people who would like to embark on this digital journey, just in brief, what are the key considerations for such a business that would want to embark on this journey?
There are several things that are happening which the businesses should understand. The government mounted a program called the Digital Learning Program. And in this, they have the basic understanding of IT, and then you have the people who want to lead in IT. They have also for people who want to be a bit more advanced, in terms of leveraging technology. This is because everything is moving towards that, towards leveraging technology. I say this because I'm so confident that in the next 5 years, we would be completely digital with respect to money. The trend worldwide, you are beginning to hear China has a crypto which is called a national currency, which is going to be digital. US is considering that. Virtually every country is considering to have a digital currency. Meaning you must understand, we are very lucky that we have had mobile money for some time. I was there when the first people were using mobile money, and you could see very educated people struggling to walk away after depositing their 10,000 shillings and being told you have it in the form of an SMS. We have gone through that learning curve. We can very easily transition to the next level. But we must anticipate that, as Nekesa says, every one of us should be consider ourselves tech, and every business we do should be tech. The article that I've written for next week, you are going to see that every big company is targeting the chaotic micro, small, and medium enterprises in Africa, because the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity, meaning that some will digitize. You see what Google has done. When we got into the pandemic, people switched to ordering their groceries online. And then motorbikes had to learn how to use GPS in order to deliver. So everybody is being forced into understanding that for them to survive, they must understand technology. GPS is very complex, but now they use it comfortably on their motorbike. They sometimes stop on the road to see whether they are getting into the right direction where they are supposed to deliver. Mama Mbogas were left out by bigger online companies, but what did they do? They switched on to WhatsApp and called their customers and worked with Boda Boda to deliver. That is proper tech. You know, they understand the technology. We need to go further than that, that every farmer in this country leverages fourth industrial revolution in order to be able to participate or be competitive. Look at what is happening in the country now. Nairobi, we eat eggs from South Africa. In Western Kenya, we eat eggs from Uganda, simply because they have understood how to do what we call aggregation to lower the cost of transportation and lower the cost of the egg. But we are stuck with the old models of business where every farmer travels to sell their eggs, which makes it very expensive for them. We need to move back. Some of these technologies are some things that we have done before, like the cooperative movement, like Kenya tea development. Imagine if every farmer is to pick their tea and carry it to the factory. It would be unproductive, very expensive, and they can't compete. But we have not seen that we can take the same model, and I'm using the word model because the very many things you hear nowadays is what is your business model? What is your revenue model? These revenue models, business models are being changed because we have technology to assist us to do things differently from the way we did. Meaning we could help farmers begin to be competitive by doing the aggregation, which is being done by Kenya Tea Development for every other product that is in the farm area, and make our farmers more productive, more competitive, so that we don't begin to rely on other countries to feed us. So we have a lot of work, and hopefully such discussions will trigger more thinking on how to make our country more competitive, and that is to go digital.
Thank you very much for those comments. And just to our participants, just to let you know that you can drop in your questions using the Q&A feature. I can see there's someone called DJ who's already said that responding to Nekesa's statement, the new versions of smartphones were just evolutions, assuming that we agree on the definition of 4IR being the fusion of the digital, biological, and physical worlds, then wouldn't you think that these new versions with AR, biometric sensors, are actually quite revolutionary and are preamble to the 4IR? I see Nekesa has responded there, but probably you could just respond to that live.
Yeah, DJ is making the argument that because previously I said that I felt that moving from the feature phone to the smartphone was revolutionary, but the different steps or the different versions that we've seen of the smartphone since have been evolutionary. And so yes, he's making the case that with the introduction of 4IR and considering what its definition is, then the new phones be revolutionary. And I think the argument could go either way. I definitely see where DJ is coming from. But I feel that the core of what the product is that it's a phone, it's a communication device that, basically we all know how to use the phone. So my argument is that the technologies, yes, for sure, are revolutionary. But what they've done is that they've allowed us to experience the phone in a different way. At the end of the day, we're still using a phone. But yes, we're now talking about you're now able to use your phone, for example, for 3D. You can see things in 3D using your phone and so on, for sure. My argument is that this has enabled the phone as a product to evolve. It hasn't designed an entirely new phone, but I definitely see where DJ is coming from, and I'm happy for Prof to give his opinion on this as well.
But I think we must recognize that some of it's because we only know about, I think most people don't go beyond 5% of the capability of the phone itself, of the smartphone. And during this COVID, I've seen Samsung has some apps for monitoring oxygen levels. Imagine, this is something people didn't think would happen, but they are very key to healthcare. People were running around going to buy oximeters, but now you just download the app, and actually it's more accurate than what the hospitals use. I had a relative, and we kept on using Samsung, and eventually the doctor said, this is something that is very good. And then he switched. Now he uses his phone to just check the oxygen levels of the patient, and that is transformational.
Thank you very much for that engaging discussion. And just to our participants, if you do have any questions, you can be able to put them in the chat. Engage with us on social media via the hashtag #AdrianTechWebinar on all social media channels. You'll find us there. And even as we just get to wrap it up, just some parting shots for an entrepreneur who is present, who is here today. Is just one thing that you would leave them with. What would be that, Nekesa?
I think it would be what I said already, that no one expects that you know everything, but what we do expect is that you'll be an astute enough business person that you would know that you don't know everything and go out there and find it. And so what the entrepreneurs should be doing is challenging themselves to be the best versions of themselves and figuring out who around me, who in Nairobi, who wherever I am, who can help me get where I want to get in order to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. And you will likely find that in a lot of ESOs. There's lots of entrepreneurship support organizations. At AFILAB, they're an umbrella organization. There's over 200 of us. There's people supporting SMEs like sandboxes based on Chania Road. There's so many entities that are available to help you figure out how to transform your business to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. So no one expects that you know it and that you understand it immediately now, but everyone expects that you appreciate it enough that you will do what you need to do to get your business to take advantage of it.
Nekesa summed it well, but I think everybody should know that there is serious change and begin to ask questions. What should I be doing? How can I do better? I know there are small companies that are going to digitize, micro, small, and medium enterprises, but it is more to you as the business person to ask the right questions. How can I be competitive? How can I make myself visible to customers? How can I deal with my customers without necessarily going outside and sitting there the whole day? That is improving productivity and earning the money you've been earning. Because you find Mama Mboga, they have to sit there looking after their wares the whole day and stuff. Is there a way I can do it without me having to sit here? And that is the beginning of disruption. And you are going to see a lot more changes along that space because there are several companies, several startups, I think Nekesa knows, that are coming into the space to disrupt. All we do is accept it and work with them and find a niche for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that vibrant discussion about what businesses can do to leverage on the 4IR technologies. Thank you so much, Nekesa, for joining us today, and thank you, Bitange, as well. All right, and just to our audience once more, even as we say goodbye, this event, the Adrian Tech webinar, is hosted by Adrian Kenya, a leading provider of technology and EPC solutions in East Africa. So if definitely this conversation has sparked something in you and you would like to reach out for some technology solutions for your company, whether in telecommunications, in the power or the ICT sector, we are here and we are ready for you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a lovely rest of your day.